Well, still haven't gone to bed because um, I kind of got exciting news. um, Something kind of interesting happened tonight. I I've got a problem, but that's not a big issue. One of my rotors in the drum has offset. The outer rotors that are behind the coils are actually sort of out of step, so I've had to move the coils out of step as well. So I'm going to have to disassemble this at some point and take the assembly out. I have to make some clips to lock the rotors in place so that they don't get out of sync. But the interesting thing is, I rewound my choke, which is this old thing here, and it's a 4 ohm choke now, and I connected it up. Now, if you remember the previous video, when I was running the device, I was around 4 or 5 volts. At around 4 or 5 volts or so, my current was around 60 milliamps. Well, I am actually at 10 volts right now, and I'm pushing out 59.5 milliamps. Normally, at this point, at 10 volts, it would have dropped down to about 35, 40 milliamps at this point. So I've actually doubled my output by a good 30 milliamps or more. It gets even more interesting. My input current is even less. I'm at 260 milliamps. Remember previously when I was doing these tests, I was actually around 300 milliamps, 310 milliamps, 320 milliamps. It was around about there. I'm only at 260 milliamps now, right? And my voltage at the moment, I'm at 14 volts. Well, that's only a little bit higher. It's 13.98 actually. So, but that's not the issue. When I connected the extra set of output coils, because I also fitted the other output coils to the device, when I connected these up, and you see the way it's wired, I'll have to draw this out and explain it, because I won't be able to sleep if I didn't explain it. Let me find a piece of paper. Right, the coils are wired in a rather interesting way. I'm going to explain to you each coil, right? Each one of these coils, right? This is a generator coil, and this is the other generator coil. Right, they're actually in series at both ends. Now, what that is this pin here and this pin here go to this delay line circuit up here, right? They're going to this circuit. Now my choke is connected right there where the capacitor normally goes, right there, the yellow and green wire. So that's where capacitor normally goes. And it's in the earlier part of the board, because I decided to put this other choke in a different position. Now, these two go to choke the delay line, so I'm just going to write delay line PCB, right? And this end goes to the output. This end goes to a full wave bridge rectifier. So we have, I'm just going to draw a triangle or a box. So this goes to our full wave rectifier, which is plus and minus, and the output comes, and that's minus, that's 0 volts, and that's our plus volts. Oops, paper's moving about, and that's plus volts, right? So you get the idea. The circuit is quite simple. Oh, I've got a shadow in it, it's really annoying. Right, so the circuit, the actual generator coils are in series at both ends. They're actually, this side goes to the delay line circuit, which is I don't think I've ever shown this bit before. I should have done really, but I never did. So there's the delay line circuit. So I need to print this again, I keep meaning to do. So it comes in here at this end, and it goes through. Now, the capacitors normally, that I've got capacitors in here as well, but so I've got, goes through the first choke, the first coil, which is that one, right, which is the first one, which is just a toroidal choke. Goes through that one. Then where this capacitor normally is, here, that's where I've got my big 4 ohm delay choke. So what happens is it smooths the waveform out. Basically, it charges the inductance up. Now, because when I was running this earlier, I didn't have enough juice going through the circuit because I only had 2 coils. Those 2 generator coils there, I only have 2 coils going to this delay line circuit, and the voltage on the choke was about, it was less than a volt. It was about 450 millivolts or something. It was less than a volt, very small. But interestingly, now that I've got the extra coil set wired up, and they're in parallel, by the way, I don't know if you can see this. Can you get the focus? Can I get focused on that? Come on, focus. There. Right, they're in parallel. You can see that this red wire here and this other wire goes to one set of coils. This other red wire goes to my new coil, which is tied there together, and the other wire is in parallel with the other. It's hard to see, the wire's a bit thin. So I've got 2 generator coils in parallel at this end, but they're also in series. Well, they're both going into this circuit, right? This circuit board. My LEDs haven't even come on because, yeah, it's because that choke down here connected because it's holding the voltage down, so it's smoothing it out. And what's happening is I've adjusted my triac, which is at the bottom. It's not even really firing very much. What is interestingly, I am now getting my pulses in a different place on the oscilloscope. So the pulses, as you can see there, are what is negating my drag. So that's this blue trace is connected to the triac's gate, right? So we're actually looking at the gate of the triac. The yellow is the output. Look how smooth the output is. There's no pulses on there, but there is on the gate there. Now, if you remember on the previous designs I was doing, the pulses were at the very edge of the waveform, and it was at that point where it negated the drag. Well, now the pulses are in the middle of the waveform. Why is that? Well, that's because there's a phase shift, but you can't see the phase shift on the oscilloscope because it's using a common ground. It's connected to the other coil. It's only connected to one coil, that's the yellow channel. It's only connected to this set of coils here. This set of coils are out of phase with that other set. So because there's a phase shift between this coil and this coil, which are in series, they're sending pulses back to an earlier point in the waveform on the delay line circuit. So that's why we're seeing the pulses at an earlier point on the blue trace, but in reality, and I'm getting a much more stable lock. So when I adjust it, the trimmer pot, it doesn't snap off suddenly when I get to one end. It's much more stable. Anyway, so I thought I'd do this update. I haven't slept yet. I need to go and sleep because the postman's delivering some more filament for me today. I could always pick it up from the post office, I suppose, but anyway. So the really interesting part is my current input's gone down a lot. I'm actually using about 50 milliamps less to drive it now. My RPM, I don't know if you saw that, but RPM is about 3,295, and it seems to have stayed there for ages. It's hardly moved. It was about 3,100 earlier. it has gone up as the voltage on the supercapacitors is slowly climbing. And I meant to update you on that. I fixed the problem with my supercapacitor circuit. I changed the Zener diode on it because it kept false triggering on me. And I didn't put that other circuit in. I was experimenting with it because you can't really see it very well, but this LED display one, it's a single pole, so I can't use it because the circuit on my supercapacitors, as you can see, it's at 10 volts right now. Well, we're not seeing a lot of current going in because the LEDs are using up some of the power, but it's at 10.2. The amps keeps jumping. Sometimes it comes up and shows it, but it's not showing it right now. That's what happens when you're not overdriving. I need to speed it up probably just to get more volts coming through to this end. But the relay circuit that's on the back, can't really see, it's right up there. I decided to leave it because that's double throw, you see. It's double pull, double throw. And this board, after analysing everything, this thing, I decided I can't use that because it's single throw, single pull. It only switches one way, it doesn't switch two ways. So I can't use it on my charge circuit anyway. So that's a bit of a disappointment, but it's no biggie because the only reason I wanted to use that MOSFET one is because it doesn't use as much power as a relay. Anyway, so we're making progress. I need to wind some more coils. I need to probably print some more bobbins out actually, because I've got plenty of space to put more bobbins and coils in here. I can get at least, let me see, when I get the time, as I say, one of my magnet drums has offset itself. It's moved out of position, so I need to take the rotor assembly out and stick it back together again, and then these two coils will be synced up, and then I can put out, they'll be further down. At that point I'll be able to have more generator coils added. Now what I'm interested in is if I add more generator coils, and each time I add more generator coils and I get an extra 40-50 milliamps, if my input current isn't going to disappear on me, if it isn't going to suddenly slow right down, what's going to happen? That's the big question, because it's getting really curious. Because if my input current's gone down and I haven't lost any speed, did I mention the RPM didn't go down, it actually went up. So yeah, it's getting really curious right now. Very, very curious I am about what's going on. Obviously my delay line's doing what I expected it to do, which is great. My output current is really quite good. It's still around 60 milliamps. It keeps jumping around a bit. It seems to compensate by itself. It's like after every so often it'll go back up to 60 milliamps. It'll drop a bit, then it'll go back up to 60 milliamps. Then it picks up speed. When it picks up speed, the current goes back up again. Yeah, but my input current's still low. Anyway, I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed soon, so I thought I'd do this little update. But yeah, this is the interesting part though about my generator coils. They have to be wired in a specific way, because the opposite back end is what goes to the delay line. So this is, the whole circuit is running through a whole bunch of coils. So whatever's happening on the delay line circuit is the opposite to the output side. So whatever load you put on it is inverted on the delay line side. So it's confusing. It's hard to explain it. I mean, this is why it keeps me up sometimes and I can't sleep, because I'm trying to work it out in my head, and it's extremely complicated. And I've just got to do it one step at a time, you know. I'm adding coils slowly. I'm not adding too many coils all at once because it would just get so confusing. My head hurts as it is. So yeah, I would just get totally lost. So I'm just adding two sets of coils, a pair of coils, an extra pair, which is what I've just done tonight. And the other generator that I never had more than 4 coils. That's 2 pairs in it, really, because I had the pulse driver coils. Those are right at the bottom underneath that drive everything. So I wonder how hot they are actually, because at 260 milliamps they should be running pretty cool. Let's put my temperature, get my temperature thing on. 42 Celsius. That's not bad. Yeah, 42.6. So yeah, it's pretty cool. The motor coils that drive it are running very cool. That's about as hot as a cup of coffee. Actually, come to think of it, I think my coffee's gone cold. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Oh, fascinating stuff that's going on right now. I was very surprised. I was not expecting to see no increase on the input current and actually to see a drop. I thought, well, how the hell? And I forgot, actually, I've got my trigger coils for the drive circuit on top, so the more load I put on this thing, the more the, well, actually, thinking about it, these coils that generate power don't influence the trigger coils. It's only the original coils that are in there that will influence that. So, yeah. So when I add more coils, I'm not going to be adding more back EMF, not back EMF, back flux. I'm not going to be influencing the timing any further because these are just those two. So anyway, I'm kind of getting a bit incoherent because I'm tired. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. I know I have. But this is what you do, you see. We have to experiment and learn as we go along. Anyway, good night everybody.